Good morning, Tigers. Today we'll be watching a video on Quizzette 709. As always, please make sure that you write your last name, comma, first name at the top, today's date, and that you circle the appropriate class color. Today I'll say that I'm purple, write your last name, comma, first name, and then today's date, which is, I think, October 1st. Number one, you're just multiplying fractions. But in order for you to multiply those fractions, you have to turn them into improper fractions. So what you do when you multiply mixed numbers into improper fractions, you multiply the whole number by the denominator and you add the numerator. So you multiply the base by the bottom number and you add that quantity to the top number. Same thing here. So it would be 2 times 4 plus 3. Here it would be 7 times 2 plus 1. And then you put that number on top of the original denominator. So this one would be on top of 2, and this one would be on top of 4. Remember, this one is negative, so you're going to keep this fraction negative. Here we go. So I'm going to multiply 7 times 2, which is 14, and then I'm going to add 1, and that is 15 over 2. But remember, it is negative. And I can put the negative on the 15 or on the 2. Times... And now we do 2 times 4, which is 8. 8 plus 3 is 11. So that's 11 over 4. Now that one doesn't have any negative, so it's positive. Now I can multiply straight across. So you multiply straight across. So 2 times 4 is 8. So I'm going to write 8. And then 15 times 11 needs to be solved somewhere else. 15 times 11. Now it's going to stay negative because a negative times a positive is negative. So now I'm going to do 15 times 11 on the side. 5 times 1 is 5. 1 times 1 is 1. There's your placeholder. 5 times 1 is 5. 1 times 1 is 1. Add those two together. You get 165. But we know it's negative 165. So that's my improper fraction. Now I want to turn it into a mixed decimal, or a mixed fraction, or even a decimal. Let's see if we can do both. So I'm going to divide the numerator by the denominator. So here I have 165 divided by 8. So remember, the top number always goes inside, the bottom number goes on the outside of the division. Now it's negative, and it's going to stay negative. 8 goes into 16 2 times. Does 8 go into 5? No, it does not. So now I have 5 left over, so that'd be 5/8. So negative 20, 5/8. Now I want to find the decimal. If I want to find the decimal, I'm going to actually erase this part right here. And I'm going to do the decimal right here. So I'm going to put a decimal, bring the 0 down. How many times does 8 go into 50? Let's see, 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48. So that's 6 times 8 is 48. And then bring down another 0. 8 goes into 22 times, which is 16. And I'm going to do one more 0. 8 goes into 45 times. And then it stops. So the decimal equivalent is negative 20.625. And I don't want you going past the thousandths place. So this is, remember, this is the tenths, hundredths, thousandths. You'll stop at the thousandths place. All right? So here I have my improper fraction. And go ahead and write this. It's going to be really, really small. So I have my improper fraction. Here I have my mixed number. And here I have my decimal. I want this for every single day on Monday. I want you to multiply them. Multiply the fractions by making them into improper fractions. Keep the sign. Once you find the improper fraction, I want you to find the mixed number. After you find the mixed number, I want you to give me the decimal form. All three of these are equal. But you're going to get a check for this, a check for this, a check for this. And then you might get checked for showing your work. Actually, you will get a check for showing your work. So make sure you're mathematically precise. Moving on to number 2. Which of these expressions have the same product? Select all that apply. So product is just another word for multiplication. In this case, it would be solution or answer. Number 1, it says, or not number 1, A, 14 times negative 5. All you're doing is solving that. Now, a positive times a negative is going to be negative. And 14 times 5, let's do it on the side. 14 times 5. 4 times 5 is 20. Carry the 2. 1 times 5 is 5. 5 plus 2 is 7. So it's negative 70. Okay, let's find B. 14 times negative 10 is negative 140. Okay. C. 7 times negative 20. I know that at the top of my head, but we'll do it on the side. So it's going to be negative. And let's do 20 times 7. 0 times 7 is 0. 2 times 7 is 14. So it's negative 140. Ooh, those match. But let's keep working. 10 times negative 14 is negative 140. Ooh, I see a pattern here. 2 times 35 or negative 35 is going to still be negative. Let's do 35 times 2 over here. 5 times 2 is 10. 3 times 2 is 6. Plus 1 is 70. Negative 70. All right. So, A and E match. And then B, C, and D match. So on the side, I'm going to write A and E match. So A and E have the same product. And then B, C, and D have the same product. Okay, so you should have A and E together and B, C, and D together. So if you notice number 2, the other days, whoa, it's all messed up. Sorry if you need this. Okay, for the other days, if you look at number 2 for Tuesday, it says, which of the following quotients? That's just a fancy word for division. Obviously, this is a fraction, but remember, the fraction bar represents division in math. That is always division. It says, which ones are equivalent? So this has one negative in it, so you're going to try to find the ones that are equivalent to it. It either has to have one negative or a negative on the top, negative on the bottom, and negative outside of it, because that's considered an odd amount of negatives. So if you look at A, is that the same thing as... So if you look at what they give you, negative 791 over 543, is it the same as A, 791 over negative 543? If you remember, I told you that when you have one negative, you could either put it on the numerator or you could put it on the denominator, or you can keep it right there in between them. So it's equivalent. Look at A. It just has the negative on the numerator, but that's the same thing as what they give you. If you look at B, though, does it have a negative anywhere in there? It does not. So B is not equivalent to this quotient. It's not. But if you look at C, it has two negatives. I want you to recall that a negative times a negative is positive. So if we look at C, a negative times a negative is positive. So C can't be it either. But if you look at D, negative 543 over 791, that would be equal to, if you just look at the signs, but if you look at the numbers, they're trying to trick you on D. The numbers are not equivalent. So the only one that is correct, I already mentioned. It's up to you to listen. Now let's look at number 3. Suppose there is a 1.1 Fahrenheit drop in temperature for every 1,000 feet that an airplane climbs into the sky. What? Let's annotate this because it's already starting to look messy. Suppose there is a 1.1 drop. So you already know that 1.1 drop is negative 1.1 in temperature for every 1,000 feet. So 1,000 feet. Then an airplane climbs into the sky. That an airplane climbs into the sky. If the temperature on the ground is 59.7 degrees Fahrenheit, what will the temperature be when the plane reaches the altitude of 11,000 feet? Now this one is going to be a little bit confusing, but try to follow me here. If we have to pause it and replay it, pause it and replay it as many times as you need. All right, so it says, What will be the temperature when the plane reaches an altitude of 11,000 feet? So for every 1,000 feet, it drops 1.1 degrees Fahrenheit. All right? How many thousand are in 11,000? That should say 11,000. It says the wrong number. So 11,000 feet. How many thousand feet are in 11,000? Well, if you guess 11, you're right. Because there's 11,000 and 11,000. So, again, there's 11,000. How many thousands are in 11,000? Don't you have to multiply that by 11? Yes. So there's 11 of those. So if we start at 59.7, we have to drop negative 1.1 11 times. So what you do is you multiply 11 times 1.1. And remember, it's going to be negative. Your result is going to be negative. Negative. So let's multiply that. 1 times 1 is 1. 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 Add that together, you get 1, 2, 1. You went 1 decimal place. And remember, it's negative. So now you have 59.7 minus 12.1 degrees Fahrenheit. Subtract it. And you get 47.6 degrees Fahrenheit. That's going to be the temperature when the plane reaches an altitude of 11,000 feet. So the temperature, I'm just going to put the temp. When the plane reaches an altitude of 11,000 feet will be 47.6 degrees Fahrenheit. All right, Tigers, make sure you read number 3 carefully. Those are going to be hard every single day. But as always, I put the hardest question on Monday so that you guys are able to do the rest of the week fairly easily. If you have any questions, raise your hand. If you need to rewatch the Quizzette video, go ahead and rewatch it. Just don't spend the whole period rewatching the Quizzette video. Have a good week.